So when you're writing a song, start to finish, do you sit
Yeah.
down and do you kind of, I know you said you do things sequentially, but do you ever mix the producing, the writing, and the mixing process? Or are those like, I
No,
write at the keyboard, I produce at the
no.
computer, and then I
I
mix?
had I had somewhat of a, I don't know, epiphany or breakthrough or something. Probably, like, I'm embarrassed to say how long ago. Like, I got into most of the important sort of things that I live by today. But it was at least 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Like, I really kind of realized, okay, a lot of people write in the studio. They write in the production. They set up some 8 bar loops and and then put some stuff over it. I understand a lot of people write that way. And you can do really cool stuff that way. I suddenly realized that it plays way better to my strengths if I don't do that.
Okay.
If I complete the writing before going into the production. Why? It's so that you're so much more nimble. You can have the freedom to break, for example, to break out of the 8 bars at bar 6.5 and just take a detour. And you can, but if you have already something laid down in the production that that goes out to the end of bar 8, it's much more of a big project to try to break that. Whereas if you're just sitting with just a keyboard or writing or whatever, you can make the thing go anywhere you want, much easier.
It's less
And you can
linear.
have so much more fun. You can have so much more fun. I do it in order linearly, but I'm saying you're not locked in to the 8 bars you just laid down.
Hmm.
You can ditch out of there at bar 6.2 and go and, take a detour.
Do you write it all mentally, or do you actually like transcribe everything, put it on paper?
The way it is now, it'll be the writing file will be just keyboard and vocal.
Okay.
Usually just recorded on a room mic, sort of pasted together or whatever. And on the click, also very important to finalize the tempo by the time you get beyond 4 or 8 bars or so. Like by the time you get beyond 10 or 15 seconds of the song, I'd say definitely finalize the tempo, just because otherwise you get into like a tempo crisis. Because when you're writing and you're going over the same parts over and over, you're going to tend to sort of play through it faster and faster. And then you're going to go into the next section kind of thinking that that's where it's going to be at. And then you're going to write stuff that won't make any sense at the original tempo. So you get two sections that are happier at different tempos. And it's just not good. So I'd say definitely finalize the tempo as quickly as you can and then keep the click going.
How long does it take you? Is it longer for you to write music versus producing it, or vice versa?
Absolutely not. Writing is much, 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 much quicker
Hmm.
because all you have to do is come up with it. I think that's always true with writing. And it's true with movies. It's true that you just come up with it, and you don't have to worry about what the hell you have to do to get it to actually hit the screen.
And then do
You
you
know,
separate the production process from recording? So like vocals are going to be done totally after, or do those you mix it all?
what happens now? Vocals are actually done very early on, and I didn't used to do that. But the reason I did that is because I do vocals, and then I do a lot of vocal harmonies also. Um, and really, when you have vocals and you kind of have really rich vocal harmonies, you almost don't need any additional chordal stuff. I mean, you do, but you don't need that much. So I'm guessing you see where this is going. If you do the instruments first, you're going to jam all this chordal stuff in there, and then you'll fill it up too much. But really, it's more important for me to fill more of it with the voice,
And,
and then do the instruments around that.
and then you can kind
Because
of
in
use
some
your
places,
voice as an instrument,
yeah,
more
but I
like
mean,
like a keyboard almost.
well, yeah, because if there's a lot of vocal harmonies and stuff, you want to let that take its place, and then do whatever else you need to fill it in.
Okay. Now,
Otherwise, you'd end up with too much.
yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I've had problems whenever I find that I always produce my best stuff when I do everything in that order. I decide this is
Yeah,
what the drums are going to be, this is what the keyboards are going to be, these are the melodies, and I separate those processes because when I start kind of cross contaminating in that sense,
yeah,
it gets I start second guessing myself, and
yeah,
I end up changing little minute details that they take me away from releasing a project, which is the most important. I mean, in my opinion, doing something and getting it done is the most important thing over almost
yeah,
anything. I think you should be really
yeah,
picky about things, but
yeah,
getting something 110% is just going to keep you from putting things out. So I found that when I separate, all of my things into separate processes, to be
yeah.
honest, I kind of cheat a little bit. I tend to mix and produce at the same time because
Yeah.
I like to hear what the final
Of
product's going to
course.
sound like, but
Yeah, yeah.
the writing and
It's good
producing I try
to,
to separate.
yeah. I think it's good to at least throw a master compressor on things
Hmm.
as you're working, just so you're a little bit less insecure during the process.
It gives it that finalized sound.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you a little bit extra confidence. But I mean, I should mention, I do the vocals first, but in order to do that, of course, I have to lay down temps to have something to sing over. So it's not like I sing it over nothing, right? So I put temp instruments down, which is enough to sing over.
Mm-hmm.
And the temp instruments, by the way, have to be strong enough to be good. So you got to have it's kind of weird because the temps have to be, sometimes I make that mistake and the temps are just too weak. And then the vocal ends up being weak because I don't have the kick slamming me in the face as much as I should. So you got to make sure the temps are, stage ready in terms of like strong enough to rock and roll, right? And then I do the vocals, get the vocals all set, and then I erase 100% of the temps, which is kind of weird. It's kind of counterintuitive because demo syndrome is like when the demo ends up more magical than anything else ever will be. So that's a thing. That's a real thing. Demo magic, the magic of demos. The first time you played it is the best. First take, beginner's luck, I don't know what you call it. Happens in the movies too. The first take is like magical and you'll never get that back. So it's tempting. It's really tempting to want to use stuff from the temps. I don't have a good reason why I don't, but I always say that I'm going to use something from the temps, but it just never works out.